Hi, and welcome to another episode of Spotlight on the Camden City School District. I'm your host, Sean Brown. Today, our guest is Sean Gallagher, Deputy Superintendent of School Support for the school district. Sean began his education career as a substitute teacher in Philadelphia and went on to teach in North Philadelphia for another 7 years. In 2008, he founded Keeley Charter School in New Orleans. Sean was the school's executive director for 6 years, leading what is considered one of the most successful schools in New Orleans during that time. He has previously worked in Camden through Freedom Prep Charter School. Sean, it's good to be with you.
It's great to be here.
So the viewers are aware the questions that I'm asking, I prepared myself. So let's begin. What are your responsibilities as Deputy Superintendent of School Support?
Sure. So the simple kind of way to look at it is that I'm responsible for everything related to student achievement in the district. So anything that would impact the ability of a school to do a great job educating kids. Specifically, and you're going to hear me talk about this a lot, I view the position as early on, this first year, maybe the next 2 years, really changing the culture of the district around how we view school leaders. I think, and this is not just a Camden problem, but across many school districts in the country, school leaders are really viewed as more operational and more building managers, right? Like keep kids safe, keep the building tight, and actually, every shred of evidence that's out there shows that schools that truly have kids on a path to college have school leaders that are instructional leaders, that are spending most of their time observing teachers, giving feedback, being cognizant of the curriculum and how lesson plans are aligned to it. And I think if you asked a school leader in Camden right now, I think most of them would say, I'm working really, really hard, and it's hard to find the time to be the instructional leader. We need to give them that time.
So could you be more specific on what are the actual steps in allowing principals to have that time for instruction if they are putting out fires and dealing with crises as the job stands now?
Yeah, so great question. For starters, we're just now starting to bring the group of school leaders together as a cohort with an identity. The 26 of them, myself and our assistant superintendents, as a group that will be spending 2 weeks together this summer, really digging in on their leadership voice in their school and their ability to be as autonomous as possible in the building and drive their decision making. One of the key things is getting their leadership teams together and saying, okay, here are all the things we have to accomplish this year. And in the past, we've done a great job with keeping kids safe, and we've done a great job with managing our buildings. And we know that I, as the school leader, need to be spending as much time as possible in classrooms across this team. How do we make that happen? Who's gonna protect the time that it takes to observe a teacher once a week and give them feedback? So I think it's supporting them, and again, as I said before, really changing the culture and the expectation that school leaders can feel okay walking away from the front office for a couple hours and being in classrooms.
So you've worked in Philadelphia, New Orleans, in Camden in various capacities. All three cities have high rates of crime, high rates of poverty. What lessons do you bring to Camden after working in those other places?
Yep. I think the biggest lesson is that the statistics around poverty and crime in those three cities are really sobering. And it's still possible to give kids a great education when those things are happening. There are examples in Philadelphia and New Orleans of schools legitimately putting kids on a path to college and giving them an education on par with the education that kids anywhere in the country are getting. And that's possible here in Camden too.
So why would you say it's more common to have poor schools in these cities than great schools?
So you'll hear this from me a lot. I think when you step into a leadership position, you have to own the circumstances. And to me, I think urban school districts are not typically led very well. I think there is a kind of a pattern of superintendents not staying very long and not getting a chance to really dig in and, again, support school leaders well, support teachers well. And if school leaders and teachers aren't supported well, kids aren't going to do well. So I think we have a real opportunity here in Camden now to change things permanently. And really, you know, my goal would be for a year, 2 years from now, for you to be able to interview a school leader in this city and have them say, without question, I'm being given the support that's allowing me to be an instructional leader. If that happens, kids will achieve.
So there are 11 charter schools open in Camden.
Yep.
When you arrived, and there are 26 district schools. For next year, 2 charter schools are slated to close and 3 Renaissance schools are proposed to open. Your job seems to be focused on district schools, but you previously worked at charter schools in Camden and in New Orleans. As we have these debates about the future of public education, the purpose of Renaissance schools, charter schools, public schools, traditional public schools, what do you see as reconciling all these ideas about schools?
Yeah. So the high level statement, and it's an easy statement to make, is that independent of governance, schools should just be good, right? The more complicated version is that, you know, and people are talking about this a lot in Camden right now. Obviously, there are implications to charter schools opening and, you know, enrollment differences in schools. The thing that I've been talking to our school leaders and our teachers about is the fact that, you know, for starters, the Renaissance operators that are coming to Camden have an incredible track record of success in other places. So Mastery has run some really amazing schools in Philadelphia. Uncommon Schools runs North Star Academy in Newark, which I think is one of the best schools I've ever seen. I want that for kids in Camden, right? And so I'm happy to have those operators come here. While that's happening, we have 26 public schools that are operated by the district that should be as good as anything Uncommon and Mastery can do. And there's no reason why we can't, and that's my job.
The district has a problem with its high school graduation rate. Data suggests that for every freshman that enters 9th grade, only about half of those students graduate 4 years later.
Yeah.
We also know that many students that do end up going off to college have to take remedial classes, go to community school, go off to 4-year institutions, and not end up completing college itself because maybe they weren't fully prepared in our current public school system.
Yeah.
In your role, how do you address that?
Yeah, fantastic question. So the easiest way to very quickly determine if the rigor in your district is appropriate is to look at your high school graduates and see what kind of classes they're taking in their freshman year. And if kids are graduating from our high schools and having to take remedial classes, we're not rigorous enough. I mean, you can't say it any more simply than that. So the long version of the answer is we have to improve rigor at every level in the district. To me, the kids that are going to be entering kindergarten this year, if 12 years from now they go to college and have to take remedial classes, what have we been doing for 12 years? We have to provide them. There's no reason why we wouldn't provide them with a college-ready education all the way through. The complicated part of the answer is our kids that are in high school right now. And this is by no means an excuse, but this is an issue in high schools across the country right now. We're not across the board doing a good job of preparing the kids that are 16, 17, 18 years old right now for going to college. That's going to be a big focus in the upcoming year. Again, you're going to hear me be a little bit of a broken record with this. I think the first step is supporting the school leaders in those high schools better and giving them everything they need, you know, for the principal at Camden High to be able to say, I actually spend 75% of my time in classes observing teachers and giving them feedback. I think that's unless we can do that for those school leaders, we're not going to be able to do anything else.
So what about the aspect of the dropout and the students that actually aren't even finishing high school?
Yeah, so you know, I think the same kind of situation where the long-term answer is because you know, I think you would find, at least anecdotally, it seems that we hear that most kids drop out. We lose kids in middle school. I think the numbers would probably bear that out too. If all of our kids are hitting the middle school grades at or above grade level and feeling successful in school, I think the dropout problem goes away. Again, the complicated answer is, what about our kids that are in middle school right now? And it's the same answer. Start with supporting the school leaders better.
In terms of curriculum, what do students, parents, educators need to know about the current status of curriculum in the district?
Yep.
And also, how do you relate that to Common Core? I know in social media and in the media overall now, issues with Common Core have come up. But if I'm a parent of a high school student or an elementary student, what should I know about what's coming up new with curricula and what my role is as a parent or as a student in that?
Yeah. So curriculum has been one of the really interesting things to wade into and kind of assess in my time in the district. You can really see the evidence of pockets of people doing really incredible work. So there are certain programs in the district where what's laid out for teachers on a daily basis and the scope and sequence and pacing guide are really good. And you've heard me say this before, I think that where we're lacking is any kind of connective tissue, any kind of high level look saying, okay, we have some things that are working, how do we bring it all together so that we can look and say this year, these are the things third graders are going to know and be able to do. And those things equate to where any kid in the country should be at the end of third grade. I don't think we have that high level view yet, so that's going to be a big task for us in the upcoming year. Synonymous with the fact that we will be moving to the PARC exam this year, which is the Common Core aligned assessment. And so the issue with Common Core is not the issue, but what Common Core is a set of standards across the entire country. I am completely in favor of a conversion to Common Core. I think it enables us to pretty simply assess whether or not we're being rigorous across any school in the country. I like that aspect, and I don't see any reason why, if we're doing our jobs well, kids in Camden shouldn't be measuring up to kids everywhere else in the country. The thing that parents should be aware of is it is a different test. So we've been working with the NJASC for the last couple of years. It's a different test, and the scoring will be a little bit different, so the language of...
So to be clear, when you say different test, you mean PARC, you're talking about PARC?
Yeah, PARC.
Okay.
Yeah. We've got really good pieces of Common Core ready curriculum in the district. We just need to look at them again, realign them to the new test, and that's about a year-long process. That'll be happening over the course of this next year.
Great. There are people out there who wonder how much improvement is possible in Camden given the crime, the poverty, the layoffs, the uncertainty, the politics. How much progress do you think is possible from what you've seen so far in the 26 schools?
Yep. So the first thing that's really important to say is it's, all of those things considered, still absolutely possible for kids to get a world-class education in Camden. Obviously there are a lot of things that we're dealing with in Camden and in many cases cities all across the country, and even some more immediate urgent things like teachers being laid off that are not ideal. And it would be great to be able to wave the magic wand and say to a principal, actually you're not losing 15 of your best teachers right now. Those are big rocks, and to pretend that those things don't exist isn't real, and it's not helping our school leaders to do that. We still need to do this work for kids. We're still a district that, even with the recovery from a deficit, still gets $22,000 per student. We have resources. We have the ability to create a world-class program for kids, even with those obstacles. And it's important for us to just kind of own that and continue to kind of speak that language going forward. The expectation needs to be that kids in Camden can and will go to college.
I remember seeing the presentation on the special education audit, and obviously there have been some, as positions have been changed in the district. What do you see as being the future of special education as we deal with some schools having as high as 30% students with a IEP?
Yeah. So here's the real positive side of special education in the district. As I've visited each school, the level of commitment among special education teachers to their students is really, it's remarkable in the district. I think we don't have a situation where we're sitting back and going, wow, we just need to create a force of special ed teachers in the district. We have them. They're very passionate about what they do. And similar to some of my previous answers, I think if we support them better from a higher level, I think if there's better leadership around expectations at the central office level of what we need to be doing for them, doing for special education teachers, I think their job becomes more manageable, and I think you'll see a lot of, so currently I think the issues that you'd see in the special ed audit are issues of, not of capacity, but of just kind of organization. And those are things that we can fix in a year.
Thank you, Sean.
Absolutely, thank you. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for being with us on this next edition of Spotlight on the Camden City School District. And as we've said before, if you have any comments or questions that you'd like to submit, you can go to communications@camden.k12.nj.us.